"We don't serve people like you." The words weren't screamed. They didn't need to be. Spoken softly, they cut sharper than any shout could. Jackson stood at the edge of the counter, still invisible in plain sight. His coat was faded, threadbare at the elbows, his boots cracked at the seams. A worn beanie covered salt and pepper hair, casting shadows across his eyes. To anyone watching, he was just another man down on his luck. But no one really was watching. That was the point. Chad, the manager, didn't hesitate. His voice was clipped, robotic. He'd said this before. "There's a hygiene standard here. Please leave." Around them, life didn't stop. The hiss of espresso machines, the clatter of ceramic. Baristas pretended not to hear. Customers looked up briefly, then down again, eyes glued to screens, lattes safely in hand. Jackson, with trembling fingers, pulled out a crumpled $5 bill. "I just want a regular coffee. That's enough, right?" He wasn't asking for charity. Just caffeine, warmth, maybe a moment of dignity. Chad didn't even glance at the money. "There's a convenience store down the block. Try there." Jackson's hand curled slightly as he tucked the bill away. He turned and walked out into the cold. The door chimed softly behind him, a sound no one noticed. What no one inside knew was that the man they had just turned away wasn't some drifter. He was Jackson Miller, founder of the roast place, the very cafe they were standing in. He knew what it felt like to be hungry, to be unseen. He'd lived it. He was raised in a one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn with 3 siblings and a mother who worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night, folding laundry by day. Dinners were peanut butter on stale toast. On lucky days, there was a canned stew to split. At 9, Jackson started delivering newspapers, biking through snow and rain just to scrape together a few quarters. Weekends were bottle runs. 50 cents meant a sandwich. $1 meant his little sister could eat too. His shoes always leaked when it rained. His notebooks were hand-me-downs, filled with names not his own. And yet his mother made sure he never felt small. "You don't need much to have worth," she'd whisper as she brushed his hair. It was a phrase he clung to, then and now. Years later, with blood, sweat, and blistered hands, Jackson opened his first cafe. Mismatched chairs, salvaged tables, but on the back wall hung a sign he carved himself. "Coffee is meant to be shared." Not just brewed and sold, shared, with those who had nowhere else to sit. The lonely, the lost, the tired. But tonight, watching his own cafe from across the street, empty-handed, heart heavy, he wondered when that sign had come down and why no one inside seemed to miss it. Something had shifted. Not in the furniture, not in the decor, but in the soul of the place. The roast place was never meant to be polished. It was meant to be human. And now, even the cup he had built his dream around didn't matter. Not anymore. Not to them. But to him, it still did. And he wasn't ready to let that go. The next morning, Jackson sat on the same cold bench across the street, hands deep in the pockets of his tattered coat. His breath curled into the chilled air, vanishing like the trust he once had in what he'd built. He didn't step inside. Not yet. Not until he understood what had gone so wrong. Instead, he observed, quiet, still, deliberate. From his bench, the cafe looked warm, welcoming, a steady hum of life. But through the windows, Jackson saw what others didn't, the small injustices that compounded into quiet corruption. A teenage boy in construction boots stepped in, wiping sweat from his brow, hard hat tucked beneath his arm. "Just a coffee, small, please." His voice was polite, hesitant. Chad barely looked up. "Kitchen's closing. Come back in an hour." The machine still hummed. Steam still rose. The kitchen was not closing. The boy gave a quiet nod, turned, and walked out, still thirsty. Moments later, a woman in heels entered. Chad's tone flipped, warm, accommodating. "Miss Holloway, your latte's ready. Saved your favorite table." His smile was almost performative. The contrast was jarring, and Jackson watched it all. Then there was Emma, tidy ponytail, hands always busy, eyes always scanning for need. She handed a small paper bag, a leftover muffin from yesterday, to a man in a ragged coat. "It's still good," she whispered. He barely had time to whisper "thank you" before Chad's voice sliced through the hum like a razor. "Emma." His jaw clenched as he approached. "You're not here to give things away. That's theft." She looked down, swallowing the moment. I don't care," he snapped. "Do it again, and you're done." The room fell quiet. No one intervened. No one even looked her in the eye, except Jackson. He sat in the back corner, face half hidden under his beanie, jaw clenched, not from surprise but heartbreak. Emma was the only one still holding on to what the roast place once stood for, and for that, she was being punished. In the break room, Jackson later overheard soft sobs. It was Sarah, one of the younger staff members. "My daughter's sick," she whispered to Chad. "I need to leave a bit early today." Chad's expression didn't change. "Either stay or don't bother coming back tomorrow." Sarah froze. Her lip trembled. But then, like 1,000 others before her, she tied her apron tighter and returned to the floor. Dignity traded for survival. Another woman, Rachel, stood near the hallway. Her phone buzzed. Reminder to pick up her son from daycare. Chad cornered her. "Melissa called in sick. I need you to stay until close." "I can't today," Rachel said gently. "I have no one else to watch my boy." Chad didn't flinch. "You want this job or not? I've got a stack of applications from people who don't complain." Her shoulders fell. She retied her apron. The fear in that room wasn't loud. It was silent, suffocating, like carbon monoxide. Everyone moved faster when Chad was near. Posture stiffened, smiles faded, and Jackson, watching it all, felt something twisting in his gut. His dream had become a machine, one that chewed up the soft-hearted and spat out silence. Then Jackson noticed something, a slim black notebook, unmarked, sitting between invoices on the back counter. He watched Chad flip through it. Inside were handwritten notes, names of customers and staff, followed by brief judgments. "Too loud," "cheap clothes," "weird smell," "takes up space." Each name was underlined in red. Some were former regulars. Jackson recognized them. Reduced to labels, warnings, "no service," "encourage takeout," "don't seat during peak hours." Chad's voice was low as he explained to a new trainee, "These people don't match our brand image." Jackson's hands tightened around the chipped ceramic mug in front of him. This wasn't a list. It was a blacklist, a silent purge of anyone who didn't fit the mold. He was suddenly 10 years old again, standing beside his mother in a tiny diner, her hands shaking as she held out crumpled bills. "One bowl of soup, please." "We'll share." The waiter looked at the money, then shook his head. "No sharing allowed. One order per person." They left hungry. That night it snowed. Jackson never forgot the cold. And now, his own cafe was doing the same to others. He started documenting photos, audio clips, timestamps, tips mysteriously short, threats whispered like policy, staff punished for caring, customers filtered by appearance. Each night, Jackson reviewed the footage on his cracked phone, each clip cut deeper than the last. He accessed the internal system, still had admin access. The numbers didn't match, discount lines missing, hours reduced, wage reports altered. Punch cards for low-income families? Gone. Student discounts? Quietly removed. Senior specials discontinued without notice. Chad called it streamlining. "Focus on premium service," he said. "No need to attract people who only buy drip coffee." Jackson stared into his bitter brew. It wasn't just the coffee that had turned cold. It was the spirit. And then he found the second spreadsheet, buried in a password-protected folder. Same sales totals, but different breakdowns. Discount entries erased, labor hours shortened, tips reallocated, profits inflated on paper. Jackson cross-checked. The manipulation was consistent, calculated. It was theft, dressed as optimization. Worse still, Chad had sent an email. Subject line, "Expansion opportunity, premium clientele only." A pitch to private investors to franchise the roast place, but strip it of its soul. No community board, no discount days, no low-budget branding, high-end decor, selective seating. Coffee for people who belong. Jackson's chest tightened. He'd once carved a sign with blistered hands. Coffee is meant to be shared. Now Chad was selling the brand his name by promising to erase everything it stood for. The roast place hadn't just drifted. It had been hijacked by a man who believed kindness was weakness. That exclusivity equaled value. That customers should be curated. The betrayal wasn't just professional. It was deeply personal. Every cup now carried shame. Every chair felt like a lie. Jackson realized what Emma already knew. Kindness wasn't tolerated here. It was hunted. That night, Jackson returned to his motel, the black notebook still vivid in his mind. He stared at the ceiling, fists clenched. It wasn't just about the money anymore, or the staff, or even the stolen hours. It was about the soul of the place. His mother's voice echoed faintly, "You don't need much to have worth." And he realized the worth wasn't in the coffee. It was in the way you served it. Tomorrow, something had to change. But tonight, the truth sat heavy in his chest. The roast place wasn't his anymore, but he was going to take it back. It began with a single email, crafted with the precision of a scalpel and the weight of a hammer. Jackson typed the subject line, "Urgent staff meeting, strategic investor visit." The message was short, formal, businesslike. Just enough pressure to spark urgency. The promise of opportunity, the threat of scrutiny, a perfect trap. By 10:20 a.m. the next morning, the roast place had never looked more polished. Counters gleamed, pastries aligned like trophies, staff uniforms crisp. Chad Whitmore stood at the helm, sleeves rolled, tie loose, grinning like a man moments from promotion. He paced in front of the projector screen in the staff room, rehearsing buzzwords under his breath. Elevated experience, premium ambiance, community repositioning. In bold on the screen, redefining coffee culture, one class at a time. He turned to his employees. "Smile when he walks in, stand straight, keep it sharp." No one responded. Emma leaned silently against the back wall, arms folded, eyes flicking toward the exit. Tyler nervously tapped a pen. Rachel checked her watch twice in 1 minute. The air buzzed, not with excitement but dread. 10:30 sharp, the staff room door creaked open. Jackson stepped through, not in a suit, not with an entourage, just the same worn coat, cracked boots, and faded beanie. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Chad's lip curled. "Security," he barked. "Get him out. Now." 2 baristas flinched, unsure. But Jackson didn't move. He reached into his coat, not for a wallet, but a folded paper. Calmly, he walked to the counter beside the projector and laid it down. "I won't be long," he said. Chad stormed forward, finger raised. "You don't belong here. This is a—" Jackson's voice cut through him. Quiet, firm. "Actually, I do." The room shifted. Emma's eyes narrowed. Tyler froze mid-fidget. Chad stopped, uncertain. Then Jackson pulled off his beanie. Beneath it, gray hair, tired eyes, and a face unmistakably his. "My name is Jackson Miller," he said, "and I founded the roast place." Silence, real silence. Not awkward, but seismic. Chad blinked. "No?" He glanced around, desperate for a lifeline. None came. Emma gasped softly. Rachel's jaw dropped. The espresso machine hissed in the background, suddenly deafening in the stillness. Jackson stepped forward and opened his laptop. One click. The projector lit the wall, blindingly bright. "Let's start here," Jackson said. 2 spreadsheets. One real, one doctored. Discrepancies circled in red. Hours erased. Tips manipulated, wages falsified, murmurs stirred, audio recording, Chad's voice crystal clear. Cut the drawer by 300, no one checks Thursdays. Slide 3, email thread. Subject, brand realignment. Phrases in bold, poverty doesn't sell. Remove discount signage, target premium demographics. Slide 4, bonus logs, unauthorized payouts, inflated figures. Employee hours shifted, staff names erased, dates altered. Chad's face drained of color. "This isn't. That's out of context." Jackson didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He let the silence do the work. Let the shame hang like smoke. The worst kind of spotlight is the one you shine on yourself, thinking no one's watching. Chad stepped forward, voice shaking, hands raised in defense. "You don't understand. I was under pressure. Targets. Rising costs. I had to optimize. Streamline." No one moved. Emma crossed her arms. Rachel rolled her eyes. Even Tyler stepped back from Chad's side. Chad looked around the room, then toward Jackson. "I kept this place running. I made the hard calls. That's leadership." Jackson blinked slowly. "No, that's exploitation." Dressed in a buzzword. Then his voice softened. "But there's one person here who never forgot what this cafe was built for." He turned toward Emma. "She didn't cook the books. She didn't chase bonuses. She just showed up, day after day, underpaid, disrespected, and still chose kindness." Emma's lips parted. Her eyes glistened. "I was just doing what felt right." "And that," Jackson said, "is why you should lead it." The room exhaled at once. First, a stunned silence. Then soft clapping, Tyler. Then Rachel. Then the rest. The staff erupted, not just in applause, but in release. "For everything you are," Jackson continued, "as of today, Emma Parker is the new general manager of the roast place." Emma froze, then tears welled. She didn't move, just stood. Behind her, Chad's shoulders slumped. His name was already being erased from the story. And then footsteps echoed. The front door opened again. 2 uniformed officers stepped in, calm, measured. "Chad Whitmore?" one asked. He stiffened. "Yeah, what's this about?" Jackson handed them a folder. "Financial fraud, payroll manipulation, Attempted illegal sale of corporate property, all documented. Chad laughed, a hollow sound. You can't be serious. I'll sue. I'm the manager. The cuffs clicked. The officers read his rights. No one in the room spoke. No one came to his defense. As they let him out, he turned back. Desperate. But the staff weren't looking at him anymore. They were looking at Emma. Justice didn't arrive in a roar. It came in a whisper. A hand on a shoulder. A tear finally shed. A truth spoken aloud. Then Lena, always quiet, stepped forward. He made us pay for broken mugs out of pocket, docked our hours for bathroom breaks. Tyler added, he canceled our tips when we missed his quotas. Rachel, he said sick days made us look weak. One by one they spoke. The dam had broken. Not from fear, but relief. Jackson stood off to the side watching them, and for the first time in years, the cafe felt alive again. He cleared his throat. This place, he said, voice cracking slightly, was never built for profit first. It was built to welcome, to offer warmth when the world gave none. He looked at Emma, and today it becomes that place again. Emma lowered her head, humbled. No roaring cheers, no corporate banners, just steady breaths, nods, smiles that meant something. Outside, the line for coffee began to grow. Inside, something stronger than caffeine was brewing. The staff didn't just get a new manager that day. They got their soul back. The morning after everything changed, sunlight poured through the windows like it, too, had been waiting for this day. It wrapped the cafe in gold, kissing the tabletops, stretching across worn floorboards, spilling warmth into the quiet corners that once felt cold. The hum of the espresso machine no longer echoed through tension. It danced through peace. The roast place had been returned, not just to its rightful owner, but to its purpose. Jackson stood near the counter, arms crossed, watching with soft eyes. Around him, things moved as they always had, cups steaming, plates clinking, but everything was different, not in appearance, but in energy, in intention, in heart. A barista handed a latte to a young woman with a stroller. A college student helped an older man find an open seat. A construction worker shared his table with a graphic designer in a suit. No reserved signs, no stares, just shared space and shared humanity. Jackson exhaled deeply. It was working. Emma moved through the cafe, not with authority but presence. She wore no headset, held no clipboard, but every gesture, the way she gently greeted the elderly woman by the window, the way she nodded at Tyler without words, the way she refilled the napkin holder as if it mattered, carried quiet leadership. She didn't command respect. She radiated it. Behind the counter, nestled under an amber light, a wooden sign had returned. Cleaned, sanded, rehung with care. Coffee is meant to be shared. The letters, still slightly crooked, still slightly faded, meant more now than they ever had. Customers noticed. A young man in a hoodie paused to read it. His friend whispered, "That's beautiful." Nearby, a woman closed her laptop just to watch the room. Something was different here, something real. It wasn't long before Emma added something new. Next to the register, she placed a small wooden box. On the front, a handwritten sign, "Pay it forward coffee, buy one, gift one." It wasn't a campaign. It wasn't advertised. It just appeared. Printed at the bottom of each receipt, a quiet question. Would you like to leave a cup for someone else? And they did. Hundreds did. No fanfare, no social media posts. Just generosity passed silently between strangers. Within a month, over 500 cups had been paid forward. They were given to delivery drivers too tired to count change, to students short on cash, to parents juggling lunch and bills. And each time, the barista would smile and say, "Someone left this here for you." No questions, no forms, just dignity, just kindness. Emma read every note that came in, folded slips left beside receipts. Some said, "This helped me once, now I'm helping back." Others were simpler. "Thanks, bless you, hope today's better." She kept them in a jar beneath the counter. She called it the good jar. On hard days, she'd open it, read one, and remember. The roast place had become more than a business again. It had become a story, a rhythm, a space where the world softened for a while. And then, one afternoon, the bell above the door chimed. Victor stepped in. No one turned. No one stared. The place was busy, laughing children, quiet readers, soft music. But for Jackson, who sat near the back, the moment slowed. Victor's coat was threadbare, his cuffs frayed, his hands trembled slightly as he removed a worn cap. He didn't look around, didn't expect to be remembered. He walked to the counter, voice barely a whisper. Just a black coffee, please. Emma looked up. Time stilled. She saw him, truly saw him. Not the man who had once tried to reinvent her cafe into something colder. Not the one who watched her kindness like a threat. Not Chad's accomplice. She saw what was beneath all that. Exhaustion, regret, a hunger not just for warmth but for forgiveness. She didn't hesitate. She turned, poured a fresh cup, and set it gently on the counter. Then she reached into the pastry basket, took the warmest roll, wrapped it in parchment, and placed it beside the cup. "Here," she said, voice soft. "No charge." Victor's hands hovered, unsure. She leaned in slightly, her tone unwavering. "At this cafe," she added, "everyone deserves a chance to start again." His throat moved, but no words came. He nodded, took the cup with both hands like it might slip away, and found a seat near the window. Steam rose from the coffee, swirling in the sunlight. Across the cafe, Jackson watched. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. He simply nodded, slowly, as if confirming a truth he'd nearly forgotten, that justice wasn't always about punishment. Sometimes it was about grace. Sometimes the kindest revolution was one served hot and handed over without a word. At another table, a toddler laughed, crumbling cookies with sticky fingers. His father smiled over his cappuccino. A woman in heels and a man in a neon vest shared a conversation about favorite songs. The music played softly, a gentle jazz hum. The espresso machine hissed in rhythm. Life stirred in the smallest of ways, and there on the wall, the sign stayed glowing. Coffee is meant to be shared. It wasn't just decoration, it was memory, it was mission. It was a promise carved into wood, echoing into every cup. The roast place hadn't just reopened, it had come home. Everywhere people belonged, not because of what they wore or how much they had, but because someone decided they should. Someone like Emma, someone like Jackson, someone who remembered. So the coffee poured, the kindness spread, and in one corner Victor cradled his cup like it might heal him, like it already had. Outside, the city moved as always, but inside, something warmer brewed, something whole. Because the heart of the roast place wasn't the coffee, it was the people. And they were finally seen. The bell above the cafe door chimed again. But this time, no one looked up. Not because they didn't care, but because the sound had become something familiar. Safe. It meant someone new had just walked into warmth. It meant the door, like the heart of this place, stayed open. Soft morning light spilled across the cafe floor. The espresso machine hissed like a gentle exhale. A toddler giggled in the far corner, crumbs clinging to tiny fingers as his mother wiped his chin and smiled. Two strangers, one in scrubs, the other in a mechanic's jacket, shared a laugh over a story neither would fully finish before one had to leave. An older woman sat beside a college student, their heads bent over an open notebook, one explaining slowly, the other nodding eagerly. And in the far booth near the window, Jackson sat. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His gaze swept the room, not to manage, not to control, but to witness, to savor. This wasn't just a business reborn. It was a promise kept, a vision restored. The roast place wasn't just serving coffee. It was serving dignity again, one quiet act at a time. His hand rested on the table, fingers tracing the rim of a still-warm mug. He watched Emma from a distance, how she moved with intention, with presence. A smile here, a nod there, a glance that said, "I see you." She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was simply holding space for everyone. And the cafe followed her rhythm. It wasn't loud, it wasn't viral, but it was real. Voiceover fades in, soft and steady. Justice isn't about revenge. It's not about who falls. It's about who gets to stand again. It's the moment someone pours you a cup, not to fix you, but to say, you still matter. The camera lingers on hands exchanging mugs, on eyes meeting with ease, not fear. On people sitting side by side who may never speak again, but who shared this one peaceful moment. Jackson's eyes glistened, not with tears, but with fullness, with peace, because in the place where he was once turned away, people now turn toward one another. As the screen begins to fade, the voice returns one last time. Have you ever been turned away? Told you didn't belong? Felt invisible when all you needed was to be seen? Then tag the person who gave you a second chance, or be that person for someone else. More stories are coming. Until then, stay warm, stay kind, and leave the door open. Fade to black. Then, just for a moment, soft music rises, and the screen lingers on 6 words carved into wood glowing behind the counter. Coffee is meant to be shared.